All right. Good day, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Live the Fuel show. So today I am recording on a fine and sunny here in Pennsylvania, Monday evening. And today I'm excited. I actually haven't had to do any podcasts the past 2 weeks. I blocked my schedule out and I just got back from camping over the weekend. So I am juiced up, fully recharged. I was fully unplugged, no cell phone signal. It was amazing. So hopefully we'll talk about that because this guy knows a little bit about getting outside, getting dirty. We were chatting before the show. Might know a little bit about biking, maybe some trail building. I'm a geek about that as well. But really why I have bringing him on the show today is, and actually today as we're recording this, even though it's not going to air for another month or two, we're streaming this live real time in Facebook world. He just launched a book. So let me give you a quick background on this guy. So, because I love the book's title, especially what's going on right now around the country here in the USA and around the world. But this gentleman, for years he had dreams of becoming a musician. And that road didn't lead him to success, which I have a few friends in the musical world, and that is a true challenge to make it happen. And but the gentleman comes from Nashville, Tennessee, which is like the holy land headquarters of music for most people. Especially I watch those TV shows too. So, but then this guy goes and fast forwards. He's a contractor. He knows a lot about this world, which I feel more people need to embrace. And I don't want to call it just a blue collar world because it's white collar, blue collar. But the fact is, you can do a lot of things without a college degree. We were just talking about that too. But more importantly, his book launch. His book launch, I'm excited about the title here, is called "Why Should I Forgive?" And again, we're talking about empowering people here and to retool and change their lives tonight. So without further ado, my guest co-host is going to help us do that today and talk about his book launch is Derek Stone. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate you having me. It's an honor.
Well, it's an honor to have you because, while we're recording this, I hate to timestamp it because I have so many shows recorded. This might not air for like a month or two, but It doesn't matter because everything that's happening right now has been happening. There's been a powder keg blowing up. Obviously this quarantine, the COVID thing around the world. We're recording this now in the month of June 2020. And here's some wake up call, right? I left on Friday to go camping. And you'll appreciate this. Yeah. No cell phone signal. I'm in a county in northern Pennsylvania that actually moved to green status. So we left the campsite on Saturday night and got to go get a drink at a local bar. It was so refreshing. So I was like, I didn't care about that, but I was like, oh, bonus. I cared more about the mountain biking, hiking on the trails, getting out onto the river nearby our campsite. We're doing some paddle boarding and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I get back to civilization. As I'm driving back, it was 2 hours away. And all of a sudden my phone finds a cell phone tower and boom, like texts are blowing up, emails are blowing up. Like it's crazy. I was like, I am ignoring it. I didn't touch it until this morning, Monday morning. But awesome. One of them I saw with that preview on the iPhone, a friend of mine from Louisiana messaged, "Are you okay? I see what's happening." And I had no idea because I stayed unplugged. And then I go to my in-laws for a Sunday night dinner just for us to catch up quick as we come back from camping. And all of a sudden, everybody's talking about Philadelphia. Everybody's talking about, the whole thing with Minnesota and all these riots. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So one, I'm not a negative Nancy. I'm not trying to push this stuff down. It is important. I understand why people are passionate in other areas not. But I also learned that locally, right here in Allentown, Pennsylvania, we're an hour north of Philadelphia. So now I know why she reached out to me because I'm so close to Philly. But our three cities here, Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton, also did their own marches and everything else completely peacefully.
Nice.
No damaging of anything. Whites and blacks walking together, beautiful, very positive. I saw all this stuff today because, again, I stayed unplugged. Mm-hmm. So proof of the pudding here, so to speak, that people could choose to do things in a positive way and create positive change without all the negativity, without all the violence. And I love seeing this whole thing about empowerment because I'm like, I wish more people were empowered to take these types of actions, but remind themselves it needs to be done in a positive way. So I know I don't want to put you on the spot, but since you're the co-host, what are your thoughts on that since you just put out a book trying to empower people?
Yeah. Well, one of the big things that I used to hate a lot was just like pushing my opinions on people. And like, it was like in the neighborhood I grew up in, it was kind of like that when I was younger. It was like, it's my way or the highway, dude, and I just didn't always agree with that. Every time I always pushed my way or the highway, it always ended in a fist fight. There's about 10 of those fist fights that I got into.
Nice.
So I just always
pause on that. If you could hear my coon hound
I
think he wants to get into a fight with the UPS guy. So.
I think so.
He likes
That's
to make
awesome.
an appearance on the show once in a while. So.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So
fist fights, huh?
Yeah, fist fights, man. I used to get in the fist fights, and it was just like in the neighborhood I grew up in. It was Section 8 project neighborhood, in Mobile, Alabama, and I used to get down there, and for real, man, if you wanted people to stop messing with you, you had to just buck up and duke it out, because once you duke it out, they gonna leave you alone, and but in this situation, I totally agree with the peaceful marches, why they're marching, the reason they're marching. Unity is what we need. The destruction from people's anger, and that's where it derives from, is the anger, resentment, and revenge. Those are the three things that bitterness, anger, resentment are all on the front cover of my book. And so it really is.
Screen share that real quick while you're saying this.
So. Yeah, it really is kind of tough about how, everybody's doing what they're doing. I get what they want to do. I get the positive message behind it. It's just the anger and the bitterness and the resentment of people, because, I feel like people just really want to be in peace, and they want to know that they're not being, what's the word, segregated or treated differently.
Taken advantage of, being treated lesser value.
Yeah, they're not being treated equally. And that's the reason they need to be marching, and we need to be marching alongside them, because it's not right. No. And so that's just kind of what it is about it.
Yeah, it's funny because, and I know, obviously I'm white. Okay, darn. But it's like, I also didn't grow up with a lot. Okay, I color aside, everybody struggles. Not even. Mm-hmm. I mean, I grew up on a farm. My family didn't have a lot of money. Throughout my childhood, I saw my dad go through multiple bankruptcies, rebuild a business again, bankruptcy again, rebuild again. He always worked hard. Never worked for anybody else in his life. And I love my family, but didn't teach me squat about good finances, money management, anything. And I have friends of mine who've grown up in inner city environments that, Black, Asian, doesn't matter. I know these people, they're colleagues of mine. They've climbed up out of those types of environments, and they all agree. It didn't matter if it was white, black, anything else. They're like, guys, like, nobody taught me these things. And no, this information was being passed on. So they were in this place of, I don't want to say weakness, but they didn't have the tools to dig themselves out. Now, granted, a lot of these people are very empowering speakers now, and they put out their own books, and they talk about, carpe diem, seize the day. One of the guys, own your shit. He comes out and says, dude, I needed to step up, and I needed to own my shit. Like, no one was going to do it for me.
Right.
I needed to find a way to build the path. Mm-hmm. And he said, yes, I could have chosen a violent path. And he says, I got really close a couple of times, but then luckily he came from a single parent family. So luckily that single parent was the good one. It was like, okay, like, no, you're better than that. You're capable of more. We can do this together. And it took him until his 40s to finally get his act together. And I'm 42 right now. And I've made a lot of financial mistakes in my life because I didn't have those necessary building blocks, that knowledge. And I can thank my wife now and her family, because she grew up completely opposite of me. And it's been a struggle, dude. Like, it's been a very big struggle to look at how somebody else has grown up. And it's not her fault that she grew up in a more positive financial situation. It was there was different lessons being taught, different education being passed on. Mm-hmm. So I had to open up my eyes and my ears and realize, like, dude, swallow your pride, bro. Mm-hmm. You don't know shit. Okay. Mm-hmm. You thought you did, but clearly there's another better way to do it. Right. And a lot of us, I think, there's a pride thing in the way. I don't know about you. I'm very intrigued about this because, like, I studied karate when I was a kid, and I was afraid to get into fights because I didn't want to use what I learned. But then there was always people that would find out about it, and they wanted you to get into a fight. And I'm like, dude, what's the deal with the fighting, man?
Don't test me.
Like, dude, I could roundhouse you in the head, but I don't want to.
And knock 3 teeth out in the process. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I got some skills. Like, I mean, I haven't used them in a while, but I still have the flexibility. I can still go out and bust a roundhouse right now. And I did it over the weekend over the campfire, and people were like, whoa, he's roundhousing over the campfire. It's a joke now. And I'm like, okay, whatever. The point is, like, we all have a choice in how we take these actions to move forward. And that's why I liked your book, because obviously I wish we wouldn't have to connect on what's happening right now, but it is a great timing, right? Didn't you say it just went live as we're recording this today on Amazon, right? So
I did. Yeah, correct.
Resentment, bitterness, and anger. Now you chose 3, which by the way, I love, because I was joking with you earlier how I made myself go back to school as an adult student, and I did my degree at Bachelor of Science in Marketing and Psychology.
Okay.
But the only thing I've taken away from all that is actually the psychology. That is something I still value to this day.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of mindset stuff tied to those.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about the power of a trifecta. Actually, a lot of studies I read were the human brain really dials in on three things, like always threes. So blatant memorization happens easier in groupings of three. So it's just interesting that you chose three hot items and stop there. There's a lot of other things you could have focused on. But clearly these three also mean the most to you from where you came from.
Right.
Now, does one of those three stand out more than the others? Is there a hierarchy?
I would say the anger, which is derived from the bitterness, and once the anger matures, it becomes, in bitterness, once those two mature, it becomes resentment.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the big deal with me. Growing up, I felt like, my parents got divorced when I was 5. We bounced around for a couple of years, and then my mom moved us into that Section 8 neighborhood. And then she got married to a guy, or moved a guy in, and then got married to him 2 years later, but realized that she didn't realize this, but we were being sexually abused from 8 to 12. And, basically that munition was, don't tell the cops or don't tell anybody because they'll take you away from your mom. My 8-year-old brain trying to process that, is just like, oh my gosh, I love my mom. I don't want to be taken away from my mom,
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And, but my brain kept trying to process and trying to find somebody who to blame, man. And all that landed on my dad. And my dad was, he was doing the best he could with what he had. And that's one of the things we talk about parents, parents do the best they can with what they have based on the examples they were shown to be okay.
Okay.
And so, if you don't like that, and this is what I say in the book, if you don't like that, it's up to you to change it. You just said it, take responsibility, and don't make your life an excuse. Make it a freaking statement. You know what I'm saying? When you own your life, it's like, and what can any of us do about a second of the past? To change it? Nothing, not a thing. We can't do anything.
I agree. Hey,
and so
I've learned this from so many speakers. I got to pause on this. The longer we dwell on the past, the longer you hold yourself back from moving forward into a more positive future. You can't change the past. All we could do is work on ourselves also first. That's the other thing I remind people, like, guys, like, okay, yes, I do want to help other people, but I also had to learn over the years, if I didn't put in my own self-work, romantically, professionally, financially, all the areas of my life, how am I supposed to move forward and then help others with that? Right.
Exactly.
Because I'm still a shit show. It's like, right. It's like, oh, great. Yeah. I mean, Scott speaks a good word, but also if you look under the surface, it's a shit show. So it's like, okay, maybe we could do a better job at working on Scott, and then he can then help work with other people and move forward. And that was very hard for me to realize. And I'm sure this comes from your self-work too, man, because you don't just wake up one day and then boom, put out a book. Believe me, because I'm still finishing my book. It's in editing right now. I'm also going to launch a book. And I said I was going to launch it last year. That didn't go so well.
Yeah. I know. Mine's 5 years in the making, brother. I mean, I'm telling you. When I got out of the music business, that was one of the things I was so depressed because I felt like I had lost the platform to tell the story. And so I just felt the urge to write it in a book. And I did. I had 2 other versions of it. And when I got to the point where I says, you know what, look, it sucks that what happened to you. And it was not right. And it should not have happened. But if you want to get onto a better place emotionally, you got to let it go. And man, I thought my self-critic just ate me alive. Like, dude, you're going to offend so many freaking people. Don't write that. And so I shut down for 2 years. I didn't write another word in it. And that's why I told you earlier, Tommy Breedlove and Tom Schwab both said at the same exact time, like if you were like in middle school, it'd be like, pinch poke, you owe me a Coke, jinx, But they both said it. They said, dude, do you believe that? And I said, absolutely. Then they said, then write it because there's always going to be a critic.
See, I like that. I heard something a little bit differently. I had a couple different great influencers because I've had a lot of authors and stuff on the show over the years. It's 4 years now. And a common answer that started popping up, including the woman who ended up hiring for my editing, because she's a ghostwriter. She's done like co-authoring and she's a professional editing business. she's one of them. That's why I ended up hiring her, because I knew she would call me on my shit. And I was like, oh, I need you. Yeah, because I know if I slack off, she'd be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, because her point was, we all have a message to share. And if all of a sudden, like, for example, if I would have held myself back, I never would have launched a podcast show, right? So I realized that after listening to enough podcasts, and I don't monetize it or anything, this is just me. I realized this became a platform for me to pass on people's messages like yours and mine. Like, I wanted it to stand for like a legacy message, right? Again, that forward mission, right?
Oh yeah.
What are we doing for the present and for the future?
Right.
But anyway, so she and a few other great influencers were like, well, Scott, like, okay, you want to write a book about the transformational journey we went through when you left the corporate world and became a firefighter. I served as one of the hot shots with U.S. Forest Service out west. And it's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. I didn't know it when I did it. And then my buddy was kind enough to do the research later. And it's like, dude, could you please stop doing that? You're going to die. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. But the point was, they're like, you've got a story to share. And I realized I want to give 100% of the proceeds back to fallen firefighters one day when, if it ever takes off. And like, okay, you have all these goals, but you haven't finished the book. So like, you clearly have a message to share, something positive, something maybe legacy building, but like, if you never put it out, how are you helping anybody?
Right.
And like, so the longer you keep saying, oh, well, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. Like, dude, you're just not helping other people. Like,
Right.
Get over your own shit. And I was like, oh, okay. So interesting way of putting it. Like, you're your own roadblock, bro. Like,
right. For sure. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, through my business, my construction business, I've learned that, man, my passion is to empower people to change their own situation, because I've seen it with my business. 3 other people that have left with me are out running around making 6 figures,
Sure.
And that's a huge blessing to me, man. Cause they did the work though, nobody's going to do that work for you. So
wait, hold on, we got to pause on that. What? All the hard work?
Yeah.
It's not going to be done for me?
Right. That's exactly right. My buddy, Tommy Breedlove, says you have to participate in your own rescue. And to me, to me, it reminds me of, the guy at Lost at Sea, where he's like, God save me. And God sends a helicopter out to him. And he's like, no, good. God, God's going to save me, and then he sends out a freaking boat and he tells the captain, I'm good. God's going to save me. Well, dude dies, gets to heaven. He's like, God, why didn't you save me? He goes, bro, I sent a helicopter and a boat after you. You didn't take none of it. You got to do some of the work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I just thought just what it reminds me of. And so nobody's going to do the work for you. And that's a big deal, because so many people want to have stuff handed to them. It's not the way it works, man. It's not the way it works. I've had 5 other businesses, and all of them failed because of a poverty mentality I had. Get rich quick, making stupid mistakes because I was trying to get rich quick.
Or you're doing things that really don't align, right, with your ethics or what. And a lot of us, I'm interested to hear your feedback on this. Like, we don't always realize that we have an underlying principle base within us. And I think that comes out a lot more when you start doing the work. And I never thought about that way. And like, after the firefighting, it really awakened a lot of things. Like, I actually have 3 words tattooed on my ribs, which is part of the hotshot creed that I learned those 2 years. And it's duty, respect, and integrity. And there's a lot of crossover to the military world. Some of those words are also used in a lot of the creed from the Marine Corps and everything else. And our job as firefighters was very militaristic. But the point was, like, those words really stood out to me. So as soon as I finished that, I had a big phoenix tattooed on my back. But then a year or 2 went by, and those words throughout my self-work, because I thought I was good after that. I was a complete shit show after that. I was like, okay, like, romantically, I was shut off. I was doing those things, just like you said, right? We were making decisions that weren't smart, but we were so desperate to succeed. And Absolutely. I was forcing it. And then I would get angry at myself because I would make a decision that didn't align with who I truly was. But it took the next few years of continued self-work to bring that out of me. And to the point where I eventually said, wait a minute, these words mean a lot to me. I'm going to get those tattooed on me. Now, granted, people listening to this does not mean I'm justifying that everybody needs to have tattoos. They're painful and they don't tickle. But the point is, for me, that needed something. I was like, I need to put that in there. I got to put that on me. So whenever if I had me in front of a mirror and I take my shirt off and I see that, and if I knew that I was a bit of a jerk that week, oh man, check yourself, right? Absolutely. Like the self-work never stops. It's inevitable, right? Like,
Right.
have you slowed down at all with your self-work?
No.
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 But like, I mean, what was the big trigger for you then? I mean, I got to pause on that. So like, the book came later, right? The realizing these three things, reflecting back on your childhood, what happened to you guys. But can you think about, besides your buddies calling you out and making the book and everything else, but when was there a key trigger for like the forgiveness factor? Like when
it was.
awakened?
Yeah, I was at a conference by a guy named, a bunch of churches put this conference together when I was I was a freshman in college. So I was 19. I was 19 and I actually got married right after I turned 20. So,
wow, more power to you, man.
Yeah, thanks.
I just got married.
Years strong, dude. 17 years.
I just got married at 41.
Yeah, man. And so we were at this conference, man, and the dude Dave Park was talking about bitterness versus forgiveness. And he said, some of you need to forgive a parent or a sibling or an aunt or uncle or grandparent. And man, my blood pressure started going, and all of a sudden all these memories started flooding back through my head like a time-lapse video, and I started getting angry. And then this voice came to me, man, and said, Derek, I want to use you, but I can't because you have this bitterness towards your dad.
Wow.
And I was like, so I just out of anger said, why should I forgive him? And because, he didn't pay child support. The lights got cut off and we were taking cold showers in candlelight, didn't know where the next meal was coming from, got sexually abused, and all this. But then the voice came back to me as if I didn't just holler at it and said, but I'm the father to the fatherless. And see, I wanted to know what that was like so bad for somebody to tell me I had what it took, that I was enough, that, they just believed in me, but could give me a positive example, that I said, you know what, if you'll give me that, I'll give you this. And 2 hours later, man, I got up. I no longer felt the need to nurse and live behind my facade. That was me, dude. Everything was happy on the outside, dude. But when I get by myself, I would just be eaten alive with shame and blame and guilt and resentment and anger and hate and all these emotions. And I was a party looking for a place to happen, and no longer did I feel like I needed to nurse that facade anymore. So I just stopped. And then the other thing happened was that I've been carrying around this burden. 8 years old. I've been carrying around this burden. And when I got up, I no longer felt the weight of the burden. It was gone, completely gone. And so, and what was crazy is that miraculously, I almost like got adopted into 5 families that all had godly men that showed me what it was like to be a husband and a father and a business owner and a contributing member to society. And I got to see how they disciplined their kids, how they made purchases, how they ran their businesses, how they did their taxes, which is crazy. And just stuff that's like reality TV, dude. Like even reality TV blurts some of this stuff out, you know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. So
you just gotta be listening for it.
Right. And so I had the different examples, and so, and later I talk about it in the book too, is 6 years later, I prayed, was like, God, would you restore the relationship between me and my dad? And 6 years later, my dad calls me up in the middle of the deer woods, dude. It's full blown gun season in Mississippi, man. And it's my dad, and he calls and goes, hey, Derek, you got a second to talk? And I was like, yeah. And he said, hey, look, I don't want to be known as somebody who walked out on their kids. And I want to be in your life and in my grandkids' life. And would you forgive me for the way that I've treated you guys for the past 10 years? And
like the abuse and everything?
Well, see, that was my stepdad that abused me. My dad just wasn't there. Yeah.
Okay.
So my
two
dad
father figure issues going on here. Yeah.
Yeah. So and so that was and I just kind of smiled and said, Dad, I forgave you a long time ago, but I've been praying for this day. I mean, since then we've been hunting, we've went on hikes together. We've been out to Texas quite a few times where he lives. And so yeah, that was kind of the pivot point, the main, and that's what I said when my business did over $1 million, I wanted to go back to see what it was that triggered my journey to success. And then the second thing is after about 2 months of that, the relationship being restored, I just straight up asked my dad for this Old Testament biblical blessing, which is crazy, I know, but man, dude, if you could only know what happened the hours, the days, the weeks, and the months after he did this thing. And he just spoke over me. He waited a month before he could figure out what he wanted to say. And then he spoke over Deuteronomy 28 to me, and which just means you'll be the head, not the tail. You'll be blessed in coming and going, and all this stuff. And I felt like I was getting knighted, dude. I mean, I could charge hell with a water pistol, dude. Like I felt like I was given the keys to this mighty armor, and then my life transformed crazy. I got a hold of this book shortly after that called The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. Mm-hmm. And that book changed my world. The 7 Steps to Personal Success. And I got his journal, Andy Andrews, and I went through every one of those steps for 30 days. And just, and one of his steps is, I will greet this day with a forgiving spirit. And I will seek wisdom. I'm a person of action. I will persist without exemption. That book just, man, those principles, like you say, everybody has these underlying integrity points about their life. Sometimes we don't know they're there, and sometimes they just appear, but these were like, all right, this is what my life is going to be based on. This is my foundation right here. And so those principles. And so yeah, that was the pivotal point for me that changed everything.
Wow. Well, the crazy thing is this, there's a whole lot of stuff bundled up in there, right? It's not just, sure. I mean, clearly you're a faithful, God-fearing man. You're all into the church and all that. And I tell people all the time, like, I'm not.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you and I can't rap on the microphone, right?
Absolutely, man.
But I actually tell people, like, especially when I was firefighting, there is this spiritual process. There's this energy, and some people could call it faith or whatever. But it's like, listen, in the end, as long as you understand that there's a whole lot of stuff going on around you, and you still got to own your part, right, and work together. And that's where I learned a lot about. I have a whole chapter just on brotherhood in that book that I'm working on. But a lot of those types of thoughts. Because I mean, and that gig, like we were doing 16-hour shifts on the fire line, and you're doing that 2 weeks straight with no days off. So there's mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion, but you're also around, you're part of a 20-man crew. And there's some crews that are actually, male and female, which at the hotshot level is legit, man. These girls don't mess around.
Yeah, and, for sure.
There is no weird, there's just like, I never worked in a position or in a role that forced you to become aware of more than yourself, right? Not just your surroundings from a safety standpoint, but also your fellow brother and sister on the fire line. And that's why I end up talking about brotherhood, sisterhood, right? Like I never could wrap my head around police, first responders, all that type of stuff. And to this day, it still dumbfounds me because I was gifted with the option to try it for 2 years. Like they didn't have to hire me. They called me the old guy. I was in my 30s. I was like, old. I'm 31. But like for that gig, it's just like the military. I mean, they get you coming out like you're the football star coming off the high school team. Maybe you're not going to go to college right away, or you're going to do firefighting to go to college, or whatever it may be. Or people still trying to find themselves, or they want to take a couple years for an adventure, or maybe they have dreams of starting their own contracting business like you, but they need some startup capital. Like you can make $40,000 in a summer as a hot shot. So that's a lot of money over 6 months. So. And then you off the rest of the year. So, but a lot of that stuff got awakened, and I don't think I truly valued it while I was in the process. And it's been unraveling year after year ever since, and because this is the 10th year. I did it in 2010 and 2011. So this is 10 years later from my rookie year. And so next year will be the final culmination of that 2-year adventure. And it was just like, dude, stuff's still unraveling. Like the mindset piece, the awakening piece, things that are bigger than ourselves, letting stuff go. Like I had some hatred toward my superintendent and the crew because like at the end of that rookie year, I almost didn't come back for that second year because he did some stuff, maybe do some things I didn't like. I didn't like the safety protocols. I just second guessed it, even though he's a career firefighter and I'm just like some dude. And then at the end of that, I was like, I came back to my word and my bond. And when he hired me and gave me a chance, he's like, I need you at least 2 years. We're rebuilding this crew because you are older. I need your mindset. I'm probably going to push on you harder. So it took that summer or that winter after that first fire season. We're like, no, Scott, you have to go back. Like you gave him your word. Your word is your bond. That's one thing I did learn from my father. And I was like, do your 2 years, get your belt buckle. That's what they give you. And it's like, get your special belt buckle. And then if you fell in love with it, it can become your career for the rest of your life. If not, it's another amazing hat that gets hung on that rack that you could say you've done something no one else has done in the world. But now thanks to that decision and then me finally getting my ego out of the way and embracing, which I heard from you right here. You didn't say the word, but I have a whole chapter on vulnerability. Oh my God. That is like the tough guy
For a
thing.
Guy, man.
Let it go. Let the tough guy thing go
dudes, we just want to be a poser, man.
Dude,
we just, the whole time we're posing, man.
We are always in our own way.
Yeah.
And my own wife, she's like, until I mean, dude, I barely made it to 1 year of dating her, and she broke up with my butt because I was so self-focused. I wasn't being vulnerable. I wasn't opening up. I was just trying to be that guy who, hey man, I got the corporate career. I got the degree. I was a firefighter. I was such a schmuck. And she had to break up with me, and I could have moved on. But something, like you said, something hit me in my head during the 3-month hiatus, and it made me want to go back for her and be a better man and give us a chance. Because like I realized, wait a minute, I didn't give her a chance. I didn't give us a chance because I was getting in our way. So it went from getting in my own way to now all of a sudden I'm getting into our way. So now my stupidity is affecting a possible lifelong relationship.
Yeah.
And
yeah, for sure, man. I had a conversation with my wife that was very, very humbling for me, because my pride had always just like, she really just doesn't know. But she, in fact, she did. I don't know how she did. It's like your parents when you're a teenager. They always know you're running around, screwing around, doing something. Dude, how do they know that shiz? You know what I'm saying?
These women are smarter than we know.
I know, dude.
They're perceptive.
Yeah, dude.
You think they don't know, and they know.
They just got feelers out there. I don't know what it is, man. But so I literally had to humble myself and say, look, you know, this is in my book. I talk about in chapter 10, you know, what forgiveness looks like in a marriage that was headed for divorce. And man, we were having all these petty arguments. And I kept thinking, asking these questions like, what's it going to be like to come get your kids every other week? What's it going to be like to be out alone, you know? And what's it going to be like to co-parent and stuff like that? And, you know, it was just one of those things where it's like, dude, you never wanted to put her through this, much less, you know, your kids. And so I had a conversation with her one night, and I said, look, I just want you to know that everything that I've ever done on my own has failed. But the moment you get involved with what I'm doing, somehow the shiz always works. You know what I'm saying? Like it just always works. You know what I'm saying?
There's that partnership.
So it's that partnership, that team. And I mean, I went and when we bought this house, I bought a $40,000 vehicle, and it cut her like a knife by myself. She wasn't with me. And I found out later in counseling, because it caused counseling. So
I can see that. Oh yeah. Because dude, first of all, that's a significant nut, financial nut. Second, the symbolism of it was you went and did it on your own. So is there a we? And I'm not even a counselor, but I'm already
there you go. You got it. That was the and I couldn't figure out why she was upset.
I'm trying to pay attention to this stuff. I've had relationship experts on the show too, and they're like, yeah,
bro. Yeah.
It's called you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
Everything gets shared.
That's what she said. She's like, I just didn't feel like a team. And then later, man, if you look at John Eldredge and Stacey Eldridge's books, Wild at Heart and her book, Captivating, they talk about the 3 desires that men and women have. So men have the desire to go on a great adventure. Men have the desire to a battle to fight. Men have the desire to rescue a beauty. And so women they want to play an irreplaceable role on a great adventure. Irreplaceable. So many times I screwed my marriage up because I took her role away, you know. And then the other thing is they want to show the world what beauty looks like to them. That's why they dress a certain way, they do their makeup a certain way, they maybe put flowers in a flower bed, the way they design their house, or they paint their walls. You know, they want to show the world what beauty looks like. And then the other thing, the last one is that she says that is they want to be pursued / romanced. And
always,
man, dude, when we don't do that as husbands, man, it's just not helping. You know,
it's because that symbolically comes across as taking it for granted, right? And even though I'm only barely a year and a half into this, that's something I've already hard coded into my head that I have to every so often. I'm like, whoa, did you pause? Did you make it all about her today? Did you take a day off? You know, like last Wednesday, I've been so busy with all this quarantine business life. I was like, I was actually a bit busier than I've ever been, because now I'm stuck in front of the computer all day long. I'm like, dude, I have to unplug. I need to go order us a special takeout dinner instead of me making dinner, or go get a special wine, or do these little extra things. Like that's the little things do matter. I guess.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. Yeah. Because they pay attention to all that effort, even though you don't feel it. It might get reciprocated later. You know what I mean?
I'm sure because you're because I know a lot of churches actually support this book, The 5 Love Languages. It's a classic for relationship building. I didn't read that until about a year and a half ago. So like right before the wedding. Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah,
Enneagram is right behind that, dude. Is Road Back to You by Ian Cron. Dude, that book, the Enneagram, figuring out what your spouse is so you can see when they're stressed, they act this way. When they're not, they're this way. Yeah. And for you too. Self-knowledge is like the key that guides you, that separates you from everybody else.
Right.
You know, it's like I know how I'm going to react because I know me. And in this situation, I'm going to hit you in the face. I'm just going to walk away. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know, I mean, that's just a random situation, you know, but like that's just kind of when you know, you can operate in you.
Yeah.
And give yourself love and that kind of thing. So. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I was like, we're both from different walks of life, but also have a lot of alignment here because, again, going back to that point of we needed to get empowered enough to take these steps to own, as you said, our shiz, right? Like it's like, dude, we got to own this. We got like no one else can own this for us, and I can't tell you how profoundly important that is. That's why I love streaming these live to Facebook. Because like, let's get this content out there now because there's so much frustration out there right now. People don't know where their businesses are going next. People don't know where their health is going next. There's right and wrong decisions being made for us. And then obviously everything going on with the riots and people's rights. It's like, guys, like if each of us could just step up and try and be a better person, that's going to help the greater good.
Right. Because humans, in any story you watch on TV or you read, humans are not challenged. They have to be challenged to change. So they're just not going to change. You know what I'm saying? Something has to challenge them, whether it be, you know, that woman is absolutely beautiful. I've got to marry that woman. I'm going to become the guy that she wants, you know, or that she needs. Or, you know, somebody's attacking my family. I've got to step up right now and go protect my family or whatever those things are. But humans, there's always going to have to be a challenge to get somebody to change. And then for true change to happen, you got to have those two things. You know, you got to have, can you prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? And then what's in it for me?
Right.
Those two things you got to be able to prove to get lasting change. So yeah, but I think that's interesting how, and my challenge is that God, there's got to be a better way. Like I can't keep doing this. You know, I started my business. It's so funny.
Like we're hitting our heads up against the wall and it's like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
But we keep doing it. It's like,
absolutely got to be a better way. And that's for sure. You know, that was my thing is that, man, I think it's funny that you talk about getting some operating capital, and I started my business on unemployment, man. Like I came straight off of unemployment and turned around and started working 2 weeks later and right into contract. Now I wasn't contracting at the time. I was learning at the time.
Right. Were you doing like an apprenticeship or?
No, dude, just some random
freelance stuff.
Yeah. GC hired me for $15 an hour. And he's like, do you know how to do this? I was like, no. He goes, let me show you. And dude, I mean, I knew my way around tools. So
I've worn so many hats in my life just to get by. Like people have no idea. There's friends of mine like, dude, you should make a list of all the jobs you've ever done. Because I said, guys, like it was just a method in the timeline. Sure. And if you could swallow up your pride enough and realize you just got to get food at that time, it was just on my table. I was like, all right, dude, I need to survive. Like when I wasn't firefighting, I was living out of my car. I didn't really have a regular apartment because I was living on a fire base in Arizona half the year. And then I would just travel around, you know, camp, mountain bike, stuff like that, you know, do that whole whatever lifestyle that's called these days, vagabond. And then I would come home to visit my family here, spend a couple of months, you know, do some ski race coaching and stuff in my free time because I've always loved that. And then I go back again. So I created this very mobile lifestyle. But then I got to the point where I'm like, well, I don't always want to be on the guaranteed unemployment. I feel like I'm just taking the government teat. You know, it's like, wait a minute, I don't need to be, okay, that's just a hand. I mean, yes, I know I'm guaranteed it, but that's not me creating my future. Right. That's just me sitting on autopilot. And yes, it's okay. I've been on unemployment, not just from firefighting, but even when I was let go from a company years ago, it helps. Okay. And I'm not
but it hurts your heart.
It hurts your heart a little bit.
You just like don't want it.
I don't ever want to be.
You don't want it.
I don't want to be handed something the rest of my life. And it's okay. Some people hearing this like, well, it's needed. Okay. That's fine. It's temporary. But if you expect it, you are enabling your own laziness. Exactly. If nothing else, like when I was on unemployment, I was doing self-work. I was figuring out how can I better myself. Dude, when I finished my degree as an adult student, I tell people this all the time. I knew I was going to go do firefighting. So my senior year, I was working at a corporate job, but I realized, wait a minute, if I do this right, I could go on unemployment, the last 3 months, push hard, finish that degree, and then leave and have the income I need to pay me to get to Arizona to relocate my life. So I strategically asked my boss, and I was the number 3 top selling person at the company at the time. I said, I need you to fire me because in Pennsylvania, I'll get unemployment. And she's like, you're going to lose all your federal financial licenses. And I'm like, I'm never going to do this job again. It's all good. I need to finish my degree, focuses, and then go pay for this fire academy that I had to go to so that I can get to Arizona. And she's just like, this is the weirdest request I've had in my life. I was like,
hook it up.
All right, yes or no? And she did. So
that's awesome.
So it was like the next 3 months, banged out that schooling while also going away to New York for a fire academy, finished all that, changed my whole life, went to Colorado for another 2 weeks to go to another academy on the unemployment dollars, made my connections, made my networking, got hired by the superintendent, moved back to Pennsylvania, grabbed my car, grabbed my stuff, then figured out how I was going to make it to Arizona and afford that on unemployment. And then boom, started my hotshot career. That's so awesome. I did use unemployment in a strategic way, but I knew I wouldn't always be on it.
Right.
And again, I'm not trying to bash people on it. Some people need to be on it. I have a rental tenant who's a professional waitress for her whole 16 years. She's great at it, and she does great money. But I felt bad because during this quarantine, like they shut everything down. So she needed that. I mean, she needed to pay rent.
Absolutely.
So she wants to go work. She just can't.
Right. For sure. Yeah. So, and that is a valid point, not to look down on it now, but I'm just saying like, it was a necessity. I hated doing it, but I had to do what I had to do to get myself to the better place. And while I retooled, that's what was going on. And then the moment I stopped the unemployment, went right into a job, doing construction, grunt work stuff, man, bad stuff.
But now fast forward to today, if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't start picking up the necessary skills to eventually build your own general contracting business. So it's like, okay, you figured out, this is part of business 101 for entrepreneurship people, is like, okay, I now know how to do all these things. So now I know how to hand these off to guys I can hire because I don't want to do those things. So you figure out what I'm blanking on the book right now, but E-Myth Revisited, right? Figure out all the hats you need to wear and then start handing those hats off because I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But this I need to do. Like this is where my strength and my passion is. I will do these things. I will outsource the rest or hire people to do those things.
For sure.
Right? So I now have a VA after 4 years of podcasting just to do my blog show notes. I hate it. It's worth paying somebody to do it. Don't want to do it. Like, here's the audio file, transcribe it, timestamp it, all yours.
Yeah. I was with Chick-fil-A for 7 years, man. I was a certified grand opening trainer when I stopped working for them. And that's where I learned the value of a duplicatable system. They'd fly me to a city and I would train these people who had never touched Chick-fil-A chicken before in 4 days. It blew my mind that in 4 days they could be running the whole thing on their own. And I'd just step in a pinch, So that was what I did when I got in the business. And I finally, for 3 years, I worked it by myself. And then I was like, this is dumb. I'm working 80 hours a week. I'm backed up a month. This is stupid. I need to hire somebody. So the first guy I hired, he called me one day. The first day I set him out on his own, he called me and asked me, he literally called me about 15 minutes or 15 times in 1 minute. And he was like, dude, what's this on the list? What's this on the list? Like so what we started doing was we just started systematizing right then. All right, cool. So now when we hire somebody, we're going to walk through with a vocabulary sheet. This is what this is. This is what that is. We point to it, name it, and then they have to go back through and tell me what it is. Yeah. So it's the whole time you're systematizing, and now we have all kind of training like drywall 101, trim 101, trim advanced, electrical 101. Yep. So we have all these tools now for people that when we bring them along, we put it in their hands. Hey, learn this stuff. You'll be better off. You can make more money faster.
In order to scale, you have to embrace systems or methodologies.
Absolutely.
You have to, and to your point, sometimes you have to architect it yourself or look at other best practices. I guarantee you, companies like Chick-fil-A and everybody else studied the McDonald's model, right?
For sure.
I don't support, and granted, when I was firefighting, if we were on our way to a wildfire in some mountain, the only thing along the highway when they got gas for our vehicles was fast food.
Oh, sure.
Well, unfortunately, I had to eat it because I was burning 6,000 calories a day on average. So it's we didn't care what went in.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, for sure.
But fast forward today, I'm a huge health and fitness nut, and I do care to put in, and I don't eat a fast food. Mm-hmm. But you can't underestimate the knowledge you can gain from studying how they've done things, right?
Sure.
There is a science to that. Mm-hmm. So, and I, as a business guy, I've studied it too. I studied the McDonald's model, and I've looked at everything else. Anybody who knows anything about business and finance now knows like McDonald's is all about the real estate and their systems. It's not about the food. Trust me, the food's garbage. So, but it's all necessary components. You know, you have to build. If you ever expect to free yourself or alleviate things, you have to figure out what you don't like to do because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So it's like, okay, well, if you wish you could start this or wish you could start that, then fine. That's down the timeline. Let's look at everything today. Where can I start creating the pockets, the gaps? What can I start handing off or getting rid of altogether, right?
Sure.
Streamlining and systematize your own personal life. I learned that over years as well. So I didn't have a system years ago.
Yes.
Now I have flexibility, but I have a pretty good personal system in my life to allow the freedom to build these business ideas. So, but we all have to figure that out.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I know mine's systematized from 5:30 to about 8 o'clock. And then after that, it's just kind of, okay, where are we going? What are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, but I'm getting better at it, putting it's really hard with a general contractor. You have to be at so many different jobs. So you really do have to figure out, all right, where do I've got to be at this time and this time and this time and start blocking that out because I have somebody that wants to fill my time all the time. So, and that's where, just being strategic about those things and prioritizing. I have a color code on my calendar, so if it's green, it's family. If it's yellow, it's a meeting. If it's red, I have to do it. If it's blue, it's health and fitness,
There you go.
So yeah, just color code my calendar.
I tell people all the time, the reason why I came back so recharged this weekend, let me pause real quick. I know we're at the end of our time slot. You good for a couple of minutes?
No, yeah.
All right. So I was so happy about going away camping and recharging, but also I've built a CrossFit gym in my garage.
Nice.
I have my wife's family's business was started in construction.
Oh, okay.
So the family's business was founded in this 1910 house. And I have a 3,000 square foot garage out back.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome, dude.
Man zone. It's taken me 5 years. Like another podcaster commented on my post a couple weeks ago, and I haven't said it yet on air, but it's like this dude, he and I met at conferences, we talked, but it's the first time. It's looking good now. I've started painting the cinder block. I redid all the lighting. It's big, it's wide open, but it took me 5 years of knocking down old shelving, 40 years of old construction material from the churches that they built, just stuffed in there. Like they just took everything old from a job and just stuffed it into this garage because they had a big, beautiful new headquarters down the road. So this was just like the family dump zone for construction site stuff. So when I met my wife, I was like, this space could be amazing. I had a vision, but it took 5 years to get here, and I'm always tweaking it, always improving on it. It's become a passion of mine. This is how I unplug. But I had to build a gym out there, which now has come in handy during quarantine because all the gyms are closed. But this one guy commented, he's like, must be nice to be rich. And I was like,
ooh.
I have never and he's a mindset guy like you and me. And I'm like, so I reached out to him privately. I gave him a day or two after he made that. But I'm like, dude, are you okay, man? Is everything all right? Right? Because one, I'm rich in life experience, but I'm not doing $1 million in business right now. My wife and I together are easily over the 6-figure mark because of the hard work we put in. She started her own veterinary business 7 years ago. I started my business, which has limped along until recently. My business is now thriving thanks to the quarantine because I help businesses grow their stuff online. So I could run it anywhere. But it took me years to get here. So when people look at you right now and they say, oh, it must be nice to have this, I'm like, dude, you don't know what it took to get here.
Oh, absolutely.
So
journey.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself, my friend. But I could have been like that. But then I was like, you know what? No, seriously, there's something wrong. Because I've always shared the progress of the garage. It's called #ThisOldGarage Project. Like that old that old show.
House. Oh yeah.
This old house from your kids. Yeah. I had the same theme because it's gone through so many transformations. I got bikes on the wall and lighting, and I host ski tuning parties in there with my friends in the winter. It became an escape zone for myself and my friends. And I'm very proud of it because I did everything. I had to learn how to do electrical wiring myself. I've not hired one contractor except some guy to fill some concrete cracks in the floor. That was it. I've done everything else in there.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know you can go rent a commercial painter from Home Depot. Figured that out. You know, I drop claws, wiring, electricity. Dude, I got the old glass screw fuses.
Oh my gosh.
Power wall. I haven't updated yet. I tapped back into those old circuits because they don't have bandsaw presses or anything anymore.
Yeah.
So I got so much power. I got 220 axis out there. I got so much juice flowing through this building. So I was like, okay, as long as I don't kill myself, this could be cool.
Yeah.
So I've been teaching myself how to run metal conduit, right? This is my baby. I'm going to do everything myself as much as possible. You know?
Sure.
So it's like, but these are all, I tell people, like, I'm just connecting this for you because you're a construction guy. And I'm like,
you
got to put in the work. Goes back full circle at the beginning of the show. Like, dude, yes, I'm rich with life experience and stories.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to take this quick little rant was from what he posted on to my concerns for, is he okay with his mindset? The back to this, everything we talk about today, the empowerment piece is when you put in the work, you're learning. And when you're learning, you're creating freedom. Because then I learn, okay, do I want to keep doing this to myself, or do I want to get rid of it and have somebody else do it? Or do I want to stop doing it altogether? Like, I've actually honed my business. This will help. This will actually align with you. You can now figure out, wait, what clients do I like to work with? And which ones would I rather hand off to somebody else?
Been that and done that. Yep.
Right? You can't say yes to everything forever. But I had to learn that. I had to take on these pain in the butt clients. And I'm like, okay, our contract is coming up soon. I'm just going to let it run out. And if you still need me, let me know. But I'm like, you know, we're going in a different direction. Here, you know what? I have a few colleagues I'm connected with. I would recommend them. You're ready to graduate. I actually try and spin off in a positive way. I'm like, you're ready to graduate to their services. I think we've exhausted our relationship. So it's kind of like, I'm breaking up with you, but I'm actually passing you on to a better relationship. But in reality, I just don't want to deal with you anymore. You know, I'm not trying to rip on you, but it's like, we have to learn these things. You have to put in the work. And nobody wants to put in the work.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, man. When people, I guess where we are and where we in life, you know, people do that, look at us and say some of those things sometimes. And man, it's like, dude, I missed my whole first year of my second child's life. The whole first.
You know how many times I've heard this exactly?
You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I worked 80 hours for 2 years, 80-hour weeks for 2 years. Man, it's just that. And then, you know, every time I start a new business, I was like, I know what it took to get this one. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm just asking, do I want to do that again? You know, because sometimes it's that law of gravity. You have to break a law. You have to break the law of gravity to get momentum, to be able to fly, you know? And sometimes people want to try something, they want to dabble, and then they fall short, and they want to give up. But really all they need is more momentum. They need more power, you know? And so, yeah, man, it was the writing on, and the thing is I didn't hire anybody because of fear. I was afraid to trust somebody with this right here. My name.
That's R&R, man. That's you. That's your brand.
So
people don't understand that either, right? It's like, whereas I like rocking everybody else's brands. Like, this is my client. I helped crowdfund this movie. I barely knew anything about crowdfunding. And then my client came to me. He's like, hey man, he's like, we need to launch this movie.
Yeah.
And you had some great tips on crowdfunding that you shared. Can you run the social media for it and everything else? We crowdfunded a documentary film that became #1 last year in iTunes.
That's awesome.
Off of a dream. And it's just the truth about healthy fats in your nutritional profile. And it's like, dude, we've had major success with this. It's free on Amazon Prime right now. It's crushing it. But the point was, like, we had to figure this out. And this thing needed that, as you were saying, that lighter mission, that the fuel and the fire. That's why everything I do has fuel and there's fire in the logos and everything else. Like, my marketing is Fuel Up Marketing, right? Fuel Enterprises is my business, but Live the Fuel. It stands for Live the Fired Up Epic Life, right? Because I need to get people fired up. I want to give them the fuel. So you and I, that's what we're talking about right now, people. It's like, you got to figure out what the fuel is that's going to amp up your fire. It's going to fire you up. It's going to give you that freedom, break the gravity.
Right.
But that's going to take work. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some sacrifice. Hopefully not 80-hour weeks. So you regret seeing, you know, the growth of your young children.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I'm glad you said it, because I have sat down with some very successful people at conferences I've gone to around the country over the years. And the most successful people I've met don't talk about their successes. They share their lessons learned, and well, they'll call them mistakes, but they're not dwelling on the past. They're saying, hey, if I would do something different down the road, if I could share one thing, you know, don't underestimate the value of your child's, you know, youth. Like, don't miss that.
Yeah. And to add to that, I mean, like I can look back at now and every bit of it was worth it. I don't have a regret about it.
Yeah. No regrets. Right.
Because right now what I've done, I'll put in all that hard work,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when it was in infancy, you know, and then the child couldn't remember anything, but now I'm home every day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm home or throughout the day, or I can be home when I want to. I make my own schedule.
Right.
You know, I couldn't do that back then. Now I can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like I worked really, really hard then to get to where I am today. So now that I can live the best life I want and be with them and go to all the games and whatever it is that I need to be.
Yeah, you've created the freedom. And
exactly.
It sounds like for you,
freedom. Yeah.
I tell people all the time too. It's like you got to figure out your trifecta of freedom. You know, is it time freedom?
Mm-hmm.
Is it financial freedom? Yeah, like figure those freedoms out and then prioritize them. And sometimes, yes, you might have to sacrifice some of the time in the beginning to build the financial freedom, to then develop the location freedom. I call it the freedom trifecta. It's like those are your three. Figure it out. You know? Just like you with your book, right? It's like, okay, you figured out three things that were the most painful components that you were carrying throughout your life that you needed to deal with, work through, and move on, right? So, but that's part of that process is realizing that stuff. And actually, I'm going to screen share one more time as we're bringing the show to the close here. Yeah. By the way, I love the graphic, by the way.
Thank you.
Again, people, resentment, bitterness, and anger, the graphic we're talking about for the podcast people that are listening, because I remember this is on Facebook and this will be on YouTube when the show airs. It's a great graphic. It shows how, you know, that beautiful red heart underneath is encapsulated in this black darkness. And this is, if you start dealing with these things, again, I'm just translating what I see here.
That's exactly right.
Start breaking this evil shell off of the exterior so you can get the heart to really shine its true magnificence. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that pretty good? Right. I don't know.
Yeah, pretty good, man. Pretty good. That was that was me, man. I wanted to show because this is what it felt like for me.
Yeah.
Was a calloused heart being broken and being made new. So
I got to put you on my Amazon influencer page. Scott's book recommendations done.
Awesome.
So
everybody can get that at derekstone.online, and that's DEREK.
Yep. Yeah, we've already got the site up here. There we go.
There you go.
Oh yeah. Author, speaker, general contractor. DerekStone.online, not .com, people. There's lots of different ways of doing dots nowadays.
.online. Yep.
My client uses .co because there's no. It's impossible to find a good .com these days. So
or .tv. There's everybody's using all kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, everybody's doing everything, and it'll get more popular. But I always like to clarify that for people.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, I've had a blast today. Have you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to connect with Nashville. You guys have the best music ever. I do need to get back down there. My oldest friend, since we were 15, 16 years old, lives in Greenville, South Carolina. And I told him next time I drive down, I'm probably going to detour through that area once all this COVID stuff is over.
It's over with,
and because the music is just phenomenal. You guys have a truly musical city. So.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Hey, and I got an Airbnb if you ever want to stay. It's got a hot tub.
Nice. I'm a big fan of Airbnbs. And you have a hot tub?
Yeah.
Dude, that's a requirement for the wife. We're both heavy duty skiers.
Mine too, man.
She's like, we need a hot tub. And I'm like, why? She's like, I was like, it's not wintertime. She's like, I'll hot tub in the middle of summer. I don't care. I was like, okay, that's weird.
I just got to be cold from at least fall.
Yeah.
It's got to be fall.
I was like, okay, if we're in Colorado skiing, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't want it in the middle of the summer. I'm good.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'll have a heat stroke out here.
We're both big CrossFitters, so she likes it for the muscle recovery too. So.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Yeah. But cool, so Derek, bring the show close. You're the guest co-host.
Mm-hmm.
And because obviously you released a book about empowerment, so this is going to be easy for you. But I ask people nowadays, back in the day, I used to say at the end of the show, hey, what are some final words you want to leave behind? But thanks to the growth of the show and my own mindset through this podcasting journey, and you're a fellow podcaster, I've realized nowadays it's like, you know what? If you could sum up everything you've learned or where you're at right now, is there a current legacy message that you're leaving behind to people with everything you're doing? So that's my new shtick. So.
I'll leave it. My wife wrote the last sentence in the book, and it says, for whatever is your why, choose to forgive. And I think that's, sometimes you have to search in your heart for your why, what it is that you do, or maybe it's the why that you don't want to pass on some thing to your kids, or you don't want to pass stuff through to your wife. And so, because the people you love the most are the ones that are going to be hurt the most by your bitterness and your resentment. So, yeah, for whatever is your why. Yeah, for whatever is your why, choose to forgive.
I'm a big guy on why. but I like the way you put that, because lots of speakers are hitting why. It's very, very important. Your why will drive everything, fuel in the fire. But I love the way you put that on the emphasis on the why. Well said.
Yeah,
we'll say, hang tight and give a proper goodbye off the air. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we've already said it, DerekStone.online. As a reminder, when you guys go to livethefuel.com and you click on the Amazon banner, it takes you right to my influencer page where all the books of authors have been. Why Should I Forgive just came out today, and I'm timestamping this June 1st, 2020. So congrats again, Derek.
Thank you.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, he talked about amping your life up, getting it up there, breaking through gravity. Well, he helped us put some fuel on the fire for that today. So thanks for tuning in. A reminder, you too could live the fuel, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.